We've got two different onions growing here. We've got a red onion, which was planted from sets this spring, and a large white onion, which was done from seed last August.
Last August, so this has been in the ground.
This has been in the ground. This has been growing for nearly a year. These onions would have been even bigger if they hadn't languished in pots for about 3 months.
So you put them in a pot and you grow them on, and then when they get to what size do you put them out into the ground?
Tiny. These just sat there getting stunted. But they were fine. Onions are funny that way.
Okay.
Right, so these onions, we'll be handing these out probably in September for planting out in your gardens. This is a Mediterranean variety, an old French variety from the Mediterranean, which is really, really bolt resistant, so it doesn't run to seed early in the season and can make very large onions. They should be fine overwintering outside in the UK, and then you'll have nice big onions at the end of June following
Next year.
Yeah.
So we're giving these out in September, are we?
These will be for September, end of September, early October. We'll be giving these out.
Okay.
One other thing I can say about these is you can tell that these onions are ready for harvesting because about 2/3 of the stems have now fallen over. So though they are still growing a bit, they're pretty much ready for harvesting now.
Okay. And the red onions, or?
Now, one last thing about this onion, this is actually a very good storage onion. So once these are out of the ground, they'll last for months. These onions are much smaller. They were done later and they were done for sets. These onions will probably be ready at the end of August. Some people who have had this variety as seedlings handed out in mid to late April, but that's just community groups. Again, they won't be ready for a while yet.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a modern hybrid variety of early purple sprouting broccoli. It's still sprouting at the end of June, beginning of July, which is pretty amazing. We will be giving out plants of these in about 4 weeks' time. So that's going to be end of July, beginning of August for immediate planting. And they should make much smaller plants of early purple sprouting broccoli, which will make broccoli next spring, so probably March time, depending on how mild the winter is.
They're amazing. They're like triffids.
Plan your broccoli in because it's a good plant to follow on for crops you harvest in July, like early lettuce or kohlrabi or beetroot if you had your plants early in the season. Also really good to follow on from potatoes.
Okay, thank you.
These are cucumbers. I have to admit, I'm not quite sure what this variety is. I think it's basically cucumbers from seed saved from last year. So that's a wild guess. I'm going to call it market more, which some of you will have been given, but it may not be that. These are outdoor cucumbers, and it's good to let them branch. So this one is branching naturally. If you've got a small plant, you can actually encourage it to branch after about 5 leaves by pinching out the tips, but my feeling is it will do that anyway. If you look at the plant, you can see cucumbers. The base of these female flowers is where the cucumbers are going to form. These things here, without any little bulb at the base, are male flowers. If your plant is stressed, i.e. not fed enough, or too dry, it may only make flowers with no mini fruit at the base, at which point I would feed and water. You can use a tomato feed on cucumbers, but they're pretty hungry, so whacking some chicken manure on them ain't gonna hurt.
Okay. When did these go in the ground?
These are probably about a month from planting.
Wow.
So cucumbers are very fast. From planting, it's only about a month for you to get cucumbers, so maybe these are only 3 weeks.
Okay.
This great big tangle is our first attempt at saving seeds. So we've got 3 different things which have grown up here, some of which are accidental. We'll be giving out radicchio in about a month's time. That will be baby plants for harvest in the autumn. But some of them, these are some radicchio plants that we left to go to seed over the winter. The thing about radicchio is the roots kind of stay in the ground even if you've harvested the crop, so they kind of just pop up anyway. These flowers are edible.
It looks like flax.
It's the same colour as flax. It's actually kind of a dandelion-like flower because it's in the dandelion family.
Yeah.
So if you look, this is like closely related to lettuce, which has got much more of a dandelion flower.
Oh, yeah.
These are lettuce flowers.
Oh, that's the lettuce that's just
the lettuce
bolted.
that's gone to seed, yeah. So if you look at that, lettuce basically looks a lot like weeds because it's very closely related to weeds. And then here we've got some chard that's flowering. So we'll get some seeds off that too.
And we're going to be giving these out in the autumn.
Well, what we're going to be doing is the lettuce. This is a good lettuce to overwinter. This is Grenoble Red. So we're saving seeds of those. In fact, the seeds should be ready in a few weeks for sowing in August and September. So it does need to get a wiggle on. But we should have some seeds. So that'll be going out to everybody quite shortly. Well, I just panicked in the spring and thought there weren't going to be any seeds, so we just let some go to seeds. We've now got a fridge full of about 2 kilos of seeds because I panicked when I was at the seed catalogue.
But we can maybe sell some seeds.
Oh yeah, if you want them.
And what's this one?
Right, this is something else we're saving seed from. This is a mustard.
Ah,
This is winter mustard. Again, these seeds are pretty much ready now. We've already harvested some of them. Let's have a look. Some of the seed pods are already starting to fall open, split open and not make seed. Yeah, we'll harvest this weekend probably. That's some little black seeds in there. Well, there were. Oh yeah. And this will be your winter mustards. So this is Osaka Purple. It's just a very, very hardy leafy green for the winter.
okay.
Again, we'll be sowing those from August onwards for handing out in September and October. Right, here we've got some chard plants which were harvested about 4 days ago. And they're already growing back strongly. If you look at how the chard's been spaced, it's been spaced about a foot apart, which is plenty. The other thing you'll see is each plant has been thinned to one, each clump has been thinned to one plant. Smaller plants have been taken out and eaten already. My feeling is that if you grow chard in thick clumps, it has a tendency to bolt or run to seed prematurely and then you lose your plant. To harvest chard, all we do is twist off a few of the outer leaves. When you're harvesting chard, try not to harvest all the large leaves. Maybe take it down to about half of all the leaves you had, or 40% of all the leaves you had before. That will help it bounce back much faster.
So you always take the outside leaf.
Yeah, always take the outside leaves.
And when was this put in the ground? When was this sown or grown?
This would have been planted out about 8 weeks ago,
Okay.
and it's already been harvested on a weekly basis for at least the last month. Here we've got some summer leeks. We will be handing out some leek seedlings to plant out at the end of the month, but my worry is they're still going to be on the small side, though you can still give them a go. These leeks have been deep planted to whiten the shank, to whiten the stalk, which is the bit you eat. You don't have to grow your leeks like that, but if you don't, you will only get green leeks, not leeks with long white shanks. Here we've got some climbing beans, and as you can see, they really want to climb. Just make sure you don't give them structures which are too tall for them, too tall for you to pick, because then what will happen is a bean will form right at the top, you won't be able to reach it, it will start setting seeds, and as soon as a bean starts setting seeds, it sends a signal to the plant to stop making more flowers, and that will mean in a few weeks' time your beans will stop making, your fresh bean production will stop. So aim for something, a structure about 6 foot tall. Here we've done up bamboo canes, and we've got 2 different ways of doing them. This is Chinese style. These are lettuce. All right, these ones are a bit big, but it's what
They're
we'll be
huge.
giving out in a few days' time.
They're huge.
Some of you would have been given these. Just remember, they're huge. This actually is a variety called Maravilla de Verano, which means marvel of summer, and it was a traditional Spanish summer lettuce.
Put your hand next to that so
Alright.
that somebody can
As
see.
such, it's really heat and drought tolerant. These
Okay.
seeds come from a market garden in the south of France where they're not irrigated after planting, and they will grow, planted in May, they will grow through without irrigation and make big lettuces on a sunny sunburnt hillside a few months later in June, July.
Wow.
So they are really, really, really tough.
It is an amazing crop.
Very, very vigorous lettuces. We'll be giving some of these out shortly, but these will not be the lettuce you'll be getting for the autumn and the winter. There'll be some other varieties. But give them a go.
Brilliant.
If you've got problems with watering, these are pretty tough.
Okay.
Here we've got some courgettes that were planted about 3 weeks ago, and they're just about to start fruiting and cropping. This courgette's already made a flower, and if you look at this courgette here, you can see that the first female flowers with the fruit at the base are starting to form. These flowers with a long stem are male flowers, and though the courgette plant, you need them to pollinate the female flowers, they're not much use for anything else. These are the flowers to take on the long thin stalks, like this flower here. These are the ones to take for eating, for making stuffed courgette flowers and things. The flowers are very tasty.
Okay.
From a flower to a courgette, it's only a few days. Once these courgettes start, you can expect maybe 2 courgettes a week per plant. And courgettes kind of fruit at full pelt for about 2 months after they've started fruiting, but they carry on for a bit longer, though the courgettes get a bit smaller.
When did these get put in the ground?
So these were put in the ground from small plants about 3 to 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
So again, courgettes are quite fast. The other thing I was going to say about courgettes is, once they start to make courgettes, you've got to be really on the case. So you don't want your courgettes, you don't want to let a courgette get large on a plant, because like with beans, it will send a signal to the plant telling it to stop making more courgettes and flowers. It's just trying to ripen a giant marrow at that point, and it basically says, I don't need to do any more flowers. So you got to pick them.
Okay.
Over this last 2 weeks, we've been handing out summer leek seedlings, and we've still got a few to go. This is a pot of leek transplants which are about ready to plant out. But when you plant them out, if you want a nice long white stem, it's important to plant them deeply. Maybe this deep in the ground to blanch the stem. So you make quite a big hole, let's say with a broom handle, and you just drop the seedling in and water it in with nothing, and you don't need to do anything more to it than that. The leek seedlings are spacing them about 6 inches apart, or 15 centimetres, that should be fine. And these, which were done a while back from large transplants, I expect these are going to be ready maybe beginning of August. They're quite fast growing.
Okay.
The ones then, if somebody picks up leek seedlings the next week or so, or is given to them by me, you're probably not going to get leeks now until September, mid to late September.
Okay.